Hello again. This is Roy with the Business of Business podcast. You can find us, of course, at www.thebusinessofbusinesspodcast.com on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and Spotify. So today we're fortunate enough to have a great marketing consultant, Denice Bailey with the dbaileygroup. She's going to be talking to us, kind of taking us back to a marketing 101. I think this talk will cover a wide range of audience listeners, from those that are just starting out to those that may do periodic marketing but nothing that is consistent, to those that maybe have curtailed their marketing efforts due to COVID. And then, of course, this is going to work for smaller, mid-size, and large companies, as well as the solopreneurs and even some not-for-profits. So without further ado, we'll welcome Denice. And how's it going?
Hey, Roy, thanks for including me and asking. I'm honored to be joining you this afternoon.
You bet. Well, I'm glad we could finally get you on. Marketing it's ever changing, number one. But, we were talking about this, kind of pre-show, is not only is this going to be a good roadmap for people to use to carry out their marketing plan, but I think even more important is some of these questions that we're going to ask today are helping us find out where we are. I'm old enough I can relate back to the old paper map days, and back then, before you could plan a trip out, you actually had to know where you were. And I kind of look at this, as the marketing task, as trying to plan out the trip, is we have to know where we are as an individual, our talents. We have to know where we are as a company, their budget constraints, all different things like that. So we have to know where we're starting before we can start the journey and carry this out. So looking forward to talking.
And I agree. I tell clients all the time is, how do you know you got where you wanted to be if you didn't develop a plan, a strategic map of what needs to happen, so you can, and part of it too, Roy, is that plan, that map can help also gauge the results. How do you know if it's been successful if you didn't know where you were starting from?
Right. Yeah, and that's another important aspect, is measuring results, because we're fortunate and we're at a disadvantage. We've got so many channels in which we can place our money and our efforts that we have to measure to find out which one really works for us and which one reaches that audience that we want. Because if we're trying to reach 40-year-old adults and we're marketing like crazy, but we're reaching 20-something women with children, that's not who our product is gauged for. So even though we might have a lot of response, if they're not our customers, if they're not going to spend money with us, then it's really a failure.
And to add to that, Roy, I kind of preach until I'm blue in the face, is you got to make sure you're talking to your audience. And just as critical, you got to assure your messaging is tailored to fit that audience. Because a lot of times your messaging could be more geared to a completely different demographic or industry, and you're trying to replicate it to use for something else. And that could be impeding anything you're doing. And unfortunately, it could be a waste of resources.
Exactly. And I think, one of the first questions that we've talked about is you have to kind of ask yourself, why? Why am I doing this? Why am I, the end answer, of course, is we want to build our business. But I think we can drill down to other points in that, like, maybe is there new competition? Do we have a new product? I know that, there's a company that you're working with that is, kind of overhauling their name and brand image. So, that's a great time to launch a marketing campaign as well.
Yes, it is. And just like you said, is, what's behind this? And again, sometimes I will have a client that perhaps I worked with previously, and for whatever reason, they decided that they just didn't need to be doing any marketing anymore or wanted to kind of pull back due to limited resources, internal resources. And they call and they say, Denice, I got a call from, the local TV station or the local newspaper, and I need an ad. I got to get an ad produced. And the first thing I always say is, what's the purpose? What's the mission behind the ad? And if they say, I don't know, they called, then I say, that's not a good enough reason for you to spend money.
Right.
Because that ad's going to cost you money, and the development's going to cost you money, and you've got to have a strategic reason to be using those resources. If it's to support as a nonprofit, to support maybe a little league or something like that because you have an employee son playing or a daughter in a dance group and it's the program, I understand that. But if it's just because somebody got you at a weak moment, so to speak,
right.
and you bought an ad, that's really not a wise decision. And between you and me, Roy, and your listeners too, I guess, a lot of times I will tell clients, listen, let me be the bad guy. Have the media salespeople call me directly. I would be more than happy to talk to them.
Right. Yeah, and I think that it gets back to the whole team has to be on board. I mean, sometimes things roll downhill, and if you're the poor old marketing person and you get the phone call that, hey, we're jumping into action, you're kind of like, well, these are good questions that marketing managers need to ask so the whole team can be on the same page because, I've seen it in the past that people just want to throw money at marketing. It's a line item on an income statement for them, but if it's not strategically planned out, I mean, it's just flushing money. It's really just not worth the spend at all.
And I don't have that kind of money to waste, so
Me either.
I'm probably pretty conservative when it comes to expenditures within a marketing budget.
Yeah, I think people think, the old joke about consultants is they ask, the client asks you what time it is, and we look at their watch and tell them what time it is, and then we invoice them. But, we have to be good. We actually have to be good stewards of our clients' money. I mean, it's not our money, and, I'm like you in that respect that I'm fairly conservative in my own personal life and business, but when it's my clients' money, I guarantee you I am watching over it like a hawk because I want to make sure that they get the biggest bang for their spend.
And at the end of the day, isn't it all about ROI, their return on investment?
Exactly.
And I bet you're with me on this. You probably have the same philosophy, Roy, is I'm part of that investment. And if they don't feel like they're getting a return on my time and on my services, in addition to what we're doing, then we've got problems.
Right. No, you're right about that. And, I was looking kind of down through the outline, and also, we need to assess our team who we're, I guess, involving. A lot of times people will go outside and get someone like yourself to come in, help them with campaigns. But I guess once you get to a mid-sized company, if they've got the staff, a lot of times they try to keep this internal, but you have to decide or evaluate your team to decide, is this are they all fairly new? Do they have some experience, limited? Is it digital? Is it TV? Because there's a big difference. I can muddle my way through digital and putting posts out there and doing content marketing, but if somebody asked me to do a radio spot, TV spot, it would be totally out of my element.
I bet you could do it, Roy, and I bet you'd do it better than a large majority of people. But what was interesting is I met with a prospective client not too long ago, and we were having this very discussion. I said, they don't have anybody internally that handles the marketing. And I said, would you be my point of contact with the decisions and to bring ideas and, trying to find out who within the organization is going to be the decision maker. And she says, I don't have time, but there is no one else within the organization that I trust.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, I thought two things to myself. And it's none of my business, but I thought, what kind of organization are you building if you don't trust them? And number two is, are you willing to make the time to answer my questions and to make the decisions that I need you to make? Because I can make them to some extent, but at the end of the day, it's your business and it's your name on the business, not mine.
Right. Yes, I run into that kind of on the operations side, looking at trying to do strategic planning and kind of smooth out some rough spots in the operational side. And whenever I hear, that's always a key word for me when I hear, well, we really don't have time, because it's like, well, if you don't have time to get it right, to, improve your operation, improve your margins, maybe increase revenue, then what are you really doing in business, and what do you spend your time doing? Those should be the most important things. And just like if you want to take on a campaign, it should be one of the most important things, because it's a lot of work. Even, doing some small digital campaigns, it takes a lot of planning, and then it takes a lot of effort to carry that out.
And there's resources involved, and it's not just the financial resources. But you're right. I mean, you have to have a proactive approach to managing a business, regardless if the marketing is part of that or not, and be proactive in your efforts and what you're doing, and not reactive.
Right.
There's only so many hours in the business day, so why be reactive in those hours? The more I think a business owner or a business person can be proactive in whatever function they're doing within an organization, I think that culture, a proactive culture versus a reactive culture, is evident on the bottom line. Exactly.
Yeah, and I'm I'll tell off on myself just a little bit here about being a solopreneur. Is, I and a lot of people in this position, we get into this, I call it the bipolar fatal trap, because when business is slow, we jump on marketing, and it's marketing 24/7. That's all we do. We think about marketing. Who can we contact? How can we do it? Pushing it out, just a consistent effort till we're just worn out. Well, then we start seeing the benefits of that with some jobs rolling in, and then all of a sudden it's all of, most of our day and time is taken up with the fulfillment of the obligation to the client. So marketing goes on the back burner. Then we get in this terrible cycle of, it's a boom bust, where either, revenues are low and we're marketing like crazy, or revenues are high and we're not doing anything. And so that's another great reason to go, out, especially for solopreneurs, to go outside of your organization and try to find some help, is where you can keep more of a steady flow of pushing information out, I think.
And, when you were talking about that, I was thinking about Henry Ford's quote on advertising. Are you familiar with that quote, Roy?
No, I'm not.
It's great, and I've kind of used it in my career. Is Henry Ford once said, a man who stops advertising, or we could use the word marketing, a man who stops advertising to save money is like a man who stops a clock to save time.
That's good. I like that.
Isn't that great? Yeah.
Well, I have in the past done a lot of work in the senior living space, and unfortunately, when they open a community and they, their full gear marketing ramp up, and when they get to certain occupancy levels, I've actually had management and board of directors say, well, we're finally where we are. We don't need to market anymore. And it's like, no, actually,
that's
no.
like nails down the chalkboard.
Oh my gosh, I know, because no, actually now's when you need to start stepping it up, because, as people, unfortunately, in that business, there's a lot of churn in the residents due to a lot of things, health issues that increase where they have to go to different levels of care, whatever. But, now the mission is to be on to kind of backfill behind people as they leave. So I don't know that we ever get to a point that we can just sit back and not do any marketing. You look at companies like, I would say one of the most famous brands in the whole entire world is Coca-Cola. But guess what? You still see them marketing TV, billboards, radio. So, they have to stay after it to keep that position.
And they continue to build their brand.
Exactly. So that kind of leads us to the next question is, so I want to start marketing. I've got the money. I just want to, I don't want to throw it out there. I want to, I guess what we would call target market. So I guess we need to think about basically who is our customer, kind of like develop an avatar of who that person is.
Yes. And also, I tell clients when we're in this step of the process, Roy, I say, let's look at your current, identify your top 10 clients or your top 10 customers. What do they look like? What do they sound like? What are the demographics? What are the psychographics? Because that's who you want to replicate, are those top 10 customers or top 20, or whatever percentage you want to use for that, Roy.
Right.
Because you want to replicate. You want to do, if you had a magic wand and you could wave it, you want to go from 10 to 50 or whatever that number is of the ideal customer. So I think that has to be part of the process when you start determining who your customer is and that definition of who your customer is. And part of that, too, is not just, the basics, the demographic and the psychographics and all that is, how did you find them? Where did they come from?
Right.
And as you can appreciate, because you've seen it in your work, I've seen it in mine, oftentimes when you say, well, where'd that customer come from? How did they find you? And they say, well, it was a referral. And I to keep quoting things, but I heard a great quote the other day that cold calling is punishment for not asking for a referral.
Oh my God, I like that. Yeah, as somebody that as when I started out, in another life many moons ago, I was a financial advisor, and
you go.
That was our penance. I mean, you came in every day and you hit the phones, and if you weren't making 100 phone calls a day, exactly. Yeah. And if you didn't make 100 calls a day, you weren't even making an effort. So, yeah, I can relate to that. And speaking of outreach, this is a pet peeve that I bring up all the time, and I'm not going to let you get by without kind of bringing it up. Is the so emails, follow up, because referrals are, they're the cheapest source of new leads, I think, in any survey that I've ever seen, unless somebody just wanders into your company, wanders into your front door asking to buy something. The referrals are about the cheapest. And so, number one, we have to always ask for those. But then it's this, it's building a relationship, and I'm all about relationship selling. I think people buy from people that they like, that they want to see be successful. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so, we have to tailor our message, because I hate the message, whether it's email or phone call, like, hey, Roy, I talked to you a couple months ago. I'm just circling back with you to see if you're ready to buy now. And to me, that is somebody that is so not interested in me or if the product fits. That's somebody who's got a quota or their paycheck depends on it. And so, I'm all about the content marketing, number one, pushing out good content that our clients can use, but also what I use Google, I think it's Google News Alert. So you could type in key terms in there and it'll pop up any news articles that are relevant to what you put in, and it'll do it daily, weekly, whatever you set. But anyway, what I look for is articles that I can send out to prospects and say, hey, Joe, I saw this article here, and then I will outline, like, here are 3 points that I took away from this that I thought you would find interesting or help you in your business. And you send that out because you want to be a valued source, until they're your customer. And even after they are your customer, you want to continue to be a value source of information about whatever business you're in. And so tailoring those to build the relationships, because then it makes it so much easier to ask for that referral. If I have a relationship with you, if you walk into my business unsolicited, buy something, walk out, then I call you, a week later and say, hey, Denice, this is Roy. I really wish you could give me some referrals. We just don't have that kind of relationship that you trust. Well, I will say it from my point of view. I would not have a relationship where I would trust that salesman enough to want to refer my friends. But if it's somebody who has sent me some thoughtful emails or called and said, hey, I saw this that may interest you. If you build that relationship, now I have a high level of trust that I feel like that you're looking out for my best interest. And so making that referral becomes much, much more easy.
And I agree. And I see it as a vested interest in my business. I like to do the same thing. I like to use Google Alerts. Also, I'll look at their industry news, and sometimes find something that maybe the competition is doing, because I've had enough, discussions with them. Tell me a little bit about your competition. Who is your competition, by name? And if I find something perhaps that the competition is doing, shoot it to them via email or however and say, are you aware of this? Did you see this going on? And I've done that, and I've gotten return emails. No, I did not. Thank you. This is unsettling, or whatever the case may be. So I think I can't agree with you enough on that, Roy.
Yeah.
That relationship is key. It's so much, for me, it is so much that I find myself, and maybe this is a female thing, but I find myself emotionally caught up in that relationship.
Yeah, I think you have to be, if you're a good relationship builder, there has to be some kind of an emotional connection, because if you don't, then it's just faking it. And I think people can see through that very easily.
And I've had not that I've cried, but I can, I get upset. Upset for what's happening to them, unrelated to me. And I've had clients to say, well, it's not worth you getting upset about. And I say, if it's happening to you, it is happening to me.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and you have to have that level of commitment to your customers. It shines through that they know that you are very committed and very loyal to them. And,
Yes, I think the referrals are not only is it an inexpensive lead, but I have also found more often than not it is a very qualified lead, because there's typically a need already there that's been identified either from my current client or some other fashion. So those are great leads, and they're easy to follow up on, and they're fun. There's not a better, it's so much fun. And when I get a referral from a client, I always say, hey, Roy, I appreciate the name and the information. May I please use your name when I follow up with them? And they love it.
Right.
They love it.
Yeah, and they're much more stickier, well, I would call sticky, because they don't take, I don't think they take near the effort to close, because they already feel that there's some relationship with you already through their friend. And that kind of goes along with the latest. It's been a while since I've seen the numbers, but the latest one I saw is that it takes about 8 touches to take somebody from a cold position to actually be a buyer. And if you reach out to me 8 times and say, hey, I'm circling back, are you ready yet? About after the 3rd time, I'm going to be so tired, I'm not going to take your phone call anymore. But then that's why I think that, we can take that time to be thoughtful with that follow-up to, you're going to have to, you might as well just count on doing it. I'm going to have to reach out to these people 8 times. Let's make it thoughtful. Let's give them something that they can use that is of value to them, and build that deeper relationship than just, hey, are you ready to buy yet?
But you're right. It's anywhere, depending on the product and the service, it's anywhere from 8 to 12 cold call attempts. That's a bunch.
Right.
And like you said, it's not just hey, this is Denice calling to follow up. That's not you're bringing no value to them, and you've got to illustrate the value which you're bringing to the table for them. Because if they don't see value in you or your product, I mean, it's a waste of your time and their time.
Right. And the other thing too is if you really have to work on the front end with your first one or two contacts, I think to ask thoughtful questions, just depending on what you're trying to sell or the business that you're in. But, you learn about their hobbies, what they're doing in their spare time. If they're going on vacation, you can always send an email. Hey, I know that y'all been gone all week. Just check and see, how everything went. Y'all have fun. Little things like that. But also don't be scared to ask, what is the best way to reach out to you? What do you prefer? Text, email, phone call? And then that way you can try to match that, because really today, and I'm one that does this, is I look at my call, and if I don't recognize the number, it goes to voicemail. And then if you leave a voicemail, it's somebody I know or want to talk to, I'll call them back. But very seldom nowadays do I take a call that just, a number pops up. So there's a lot more of that. So it's very important to ask those questions of what is the best way to reach out to them, during that follow-up. And don't be scared. I mean, people know that the sales process is about following up. So you can't be coy like they don't think that you're going to call them back, or you don't, be scared to ask them what is that best way. Just get it out there on the table. If they tell you, hey, I never want to hear from you again, then you won't waste your time trying to follow up with them.
But what's interesting, Roy, is I buy, I'm somebody's customer too, and I have different business needs, just like a business owner needs marketing, advertising, PR. And I'm shocked, for lack of a better word, and disappointed too, I guess, is the number of people that I'm a warm lead, please get back with me on this, or, let's set up time for a demo, or whatever the case may be. And I counted up the other day, there were 6 over the last 2 months that I mean, crickets, not a single word, nothing from them.
Right. It's more and more. And I'm not going to get all the way up on the soapbox, but I'm going to just kick it around a little bit and say, that has to do with us not training our salespeople good, but I think it also has to do with turnover, because, there's sometimes I go through that too. It's like, I've called this company 5 times trying to give them money, and I can't get a return phone call, but guess what? It's just about somebody different every time that I call.
Right.
And for a sales organization, that's something I look at, because it's like, well, what is wrong with this organization where we can't have a long-term salesman in this position that's going to be there, from month to month? Because another big thing of mine is the follow-up after the sale. I think, while salesmen close the deal, there still needs to be some contact after the sale to make sure that they're happy. Did everything go like I told you it would? Is the product good? Is the service good? That salesman needs to be in on that as well.
Well, Harvard Business Review has said that more than 50%, Roy, 50% of customer loyalty is based on the experience of the sale.
Yeah.
From calling to closing. So, I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head, at least according to the Harvard Business Review, and mine.
Well, I kind of went down the rabbit hole and kind of moved over to the sales side a little bit, so we can kind of get back to marketing. But
sales is a function of marketing.
Right. Yeah, and a lot of us, the smaller the company, a lot of us, we do wear all those hats, the marketing and the sales and the follow-up. So that's why I guess I feel very strongly about that. And like you said, I'm a customer too, so I always want to treat people the way I want to be treated. There's a, kind of a new thing going around. It's like the old saying used to be, treat people the way that you want to be treated. But now they're saying, No, don't do that. Treat people the way they want to be treated. So it's even more important to listen to them, to how do they want to be treated, and not just, assume that everybody wants the same thing we do. But, when it comes to customer
and
service.
that could be a generational thing too.
Yes. Yeah.
When you think about the psychographics of the individual generation.
So, another thing too, I think when we're laying out our plan is typically there's not just a single step involved. Like we said, we need to plan, execute. Sometimes we do A/B testing where we try 2, 3, 4 different things to see if we get a bigger bump, whether, depending on what we want to measure, if we're measuring response or dollars in, whatever. So there's going to be, it's multifaceted, multi-step. So I think the other thing is laying out a timeline that we can live with that is not overly aggressive. It gives us time to put everything into motion and then also get that response, but not something that drags out for so far that it's like when we get to the end of it, we don't know what we've got.
And the environment has changed too. That's a great point, Roy. I had a client that brought me in. To be honest, it was an election. They brought me in to help with a bond election. And there was so much that needed to be done. And I kind of teased. I said, it's like y'all are bringing in a new quarterback in the fourth quarter, the last 5 minutes, and you're down 21 points.
Right.
I mean, that's a tough job. So that timeline is impeccable.
Right. Yeah, and the sooner, especially things like that, the sooner you get on it, the better. But even in regular business, if somebody is building a building down the street, we don't want to wait till, they've got the sign up and the flags in the front yard before we think about them as being competition. I mean, the minute we see any activity and we know that it's going to be somebody that's going to be, in our same space, that's really the time to get on that and again, it gets back to what you were saying earlier about being very proactive and don't just wait and be reactive.
Right.
Don't wait till you've lost your business.
Yeah, because a lot of times if you wait too late, you've waited so late that you're working against, you have enough challenges as it is.
Right.
So why complicate it, and why develop additional challenges? And to some extent, those are almost self-imposed challenges by waiting.
Right. Yeah, we've waited till somebody's got a head start on us. We may have even lost some revenue, so now it's challenging to, pay for the extra level of marketing that we feel like we need. There's so much that goes along with that, and, you kind of have to always have your eye on the horizon, looking for things. That, to me, those are the businesses that are successful, is they're always looking for those, either an opportunity or a roadblock that's coming up, and trying to figure out how to either capitalize on the opportunity or how to get around the roadblock before it actually affects their business.
It's pulling that crystal ball out, isn't it, Roy?
It is. Well, Denise, I could go on and talk about this for the next couple hours, but I know you have got things to do and clients that need your attention, so we'll go ahead and kind of wrap this up. One last question I'd like to ask is, what is a tool that you use either for your clients or for yourself in marketing that you feel that you just could not get by with, on a daily basis?
Well, that's a great question. Obviously for me, the computer, my laptop, I worked on a desktop for forever and had, was pretty loyal to a desktop. And then I thought, you know what, it's awfully nice to take a laptop into a client and take notes. And then sometimes in my field, especially if I have new art to show them, concepts to show them, a lot of times I like to say, here, let's look at it right here together and kind of, walk through why this and why that. So a laptop. And then another thing is, believe it or not, social media. and again, I think part of it is clients appreciate and respect and understand the value of social media, and it's not something that's going to go away.
Right.
We're not going to look up one day and it's going to be gone. It's just, talk about a landscape that's changing, and it's somewhat volatile too, depending on how you're using it. But I think those two tools right now, social media, and then again, the laptop.
It's funny you say that, because I had a laptop for a long time, but I would only use it when I was traveling. And so at home, I always had a desktop, and I had there was a cloud program that would actually sync them. So if I was working on a Word document on my desktop, if I packed up and got on the road, I could see that same one, on my laptop. And now, for the last 4 or 5 years, I think I've been pretty much just a laptop only with no desktop. And I look back and think, why was it so hard for me to make that transition? I don't know why it was, but it's funny you mentioned that, because I was the exact same way. I just would not give up my desktop for anything. And now, the other thing I've been working on is, not only did I have a desktop, but I had a humongous lateral file drawer, and then a couple of big 4-drawer, regular size files that were just full of stuff. And, that's one thing I've worked really hard on the last couple of years, is just cut down all the paper flow by using some, online storage and clipping, where I can keep everything, but it's all digital, and it's always at my disposal, through my laptop, of course. So anyway.
You know what? I just sold 2 4-drawer filing cabinets just the other day, because everything is digital.
Right.
I scan it. If there is an actual paper document, I scan it and I use it.
Right.
And I mean, even when I'm proofing things for clients, like copy, either for a website or an article or whatever, I may print it out to make notes. When I'm in front of a client or on the phone and we're reviewing it, I may print it out so I can make notes in the margins and things like that. And then I scan it and I put it in their respective file on my computer.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing, probably equal to the laptop, is my external hard drive, because of that, I can keep everything digital.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I'm not even going to imply that you're close to my age, but, we've come such a long way, because I remember when I first started out, it was a big Chief tablet and a number 2 pencil, and if you were lucky, you had a calculator. And, we have just advanced so far with all the tools that are at our disposal now. But anyway,
I tell students all the time, it has changed. It changes daily, and the best thing you can do is keep up with the changes, because I feel like I'm pretty flexible and fluid with some of this stuff, but it changes so rapidly, it's almost impossible, especially when you talk about marketing and the realm of AI and everything that goes with it. But again, that's another discussion, isn't it, Roy?
Yeah, no, I think I was just sitting here thinking, I need to do an episode of, the top 10 tools that people use or need to be aware of and things like that. But like you said, that's a whole another discussion. But, well, Denice, Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be with us. I certainly appreciate it. And if you don't mind, just kind of tell us, who your clients are, what you do for them, and then, of course, how the prospects can reach out to you.
Well, Roy, again, I appreciate, and I'm honored to have joined you today, and thank you again for inviting me. You know what? D. Bailey Group, and again, that's Denice Bailey, but D. Bailey Group, we work with professionals. And a lot of those professionals, like what we've talked about, they can be a small business owner, or I'm an arm or an extension of their marketing department. I don't mind taking the projects that they don't want to do or that they don't have time to do. But again, I work with business owners or professionals to assure that what they're doing is strategic, and it has a plan, and it is proactive, And I bring a unique blend of strategy and creativity with that for those solutions. And I like to be able to say to a client, okay, here's your problem, Mr. Customer. Here's the solution I can bring to the table. And then here's the outcome we want to see with that. And we've had tremendous success with it, and I'm very proud of that. And I would welcome the opportunity to visit with anybody if they want to talk to me or learn more about Denice and D. Bailey Group. And they can reach me at DB, that's Delta Bravo, at dbaileygroup.com. That's D Delta Bailey Bravo AILEY group GROUP.com.
Okay, great. And I'll be sure and put those put your email address and your website in the show notes as well as on the webpage. All right.
I appreciate it.
You bet. You bet. Well, thanks a lot. Again, this is the Business of Business podcast. You can find us on our website at www.thebusinessofbusinesspodcast.com. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So reach out. We'd be glad to try to help you with any of your business needs as well. Thank you. And until next time, be safe.